Hi, my name is Joseph from Mapamundi NYC, and today I'd like to talk about the letter T in the American English dialect. Um, a lot of my students have questions about this letter T, particularly in how it's pronounced depending on where it comes in a word. So I think the letter T is one of the more complex letters to know how to pronounce, and it pretty much has three different pronunciations that can occur depending on where it is in a word and where the stress of the word is falling. When the T is coming at the beginning of a stressed syllable, it tends to remain strong. And what I mean by that is it makes that real t sound. For example, if I have a word like take, it stays that aspirated t sound. Or if I have a word like attention, then in a word like that, the T is still strong because the word's stress falls on the second syllable. It's attention. The T becomes a little bit more complicated when it changes positions or when it occurs in unstressed syllables. One sound that the T can make, and you've probably seen this if you've been looking at YouTube videos and looking up English pronunciation, is this really kind of American flap T sound, which makes a sound like r, r, r. This sound occurs when we have a T between two vowel sounds or R and a vowel sound, and it's on a weak syllable, okay? For example, if I have a word like 80, 80, then in American English, I'm really not saying 80, 80. By American standards, that sounds a little bit strange, but I say 80, 80. The tip of the tongue is just going here, just lightly touching the top, and it makes this kind of ra sound, which, to be fair, is actually the same as the flipped R sound that we have in a language like Spanish or Brazilian Portuguese or Italian as well. If I say in a word like Spanish, caro, caro, then that ra sound, it's really the same as when I say an English word like butter, butter. Not the R sound at the end, but the T in the middle is the same as a rolled or a flipped R in Spanish. Okay. Again, this weak flap T sound or weak T sound, it can also occur in words where there's R and a vowel surrounding the T. For example, in a word like 40 or party, I'm not saying 40 and party. That would sound kind of strange by American English standards, but I say 40 and party, okay? The last T sound we have, it's a little bit complicated, but it's called an unreleased T. This T sound occurs when the T comes at the end of an utterance, which means at the end of a sentence, if you take a pause and take a breath in the middle of a sentence. Or it can also happen when the word that follows the word ending in a T begins with a consonant, okay? So if I say a word in English, American English, like cat, cat, I'm not saying cat, cat. That sounds a bit overpronounced by American English standards. So what I say is cat. You can see my tongue. It remains up on the roof of my mouth, but it doesn't come back down, okay? So if I say something like, the cat likes milk, then in that situation, I have the word cat, and the next word is beginning with a consonant, so the T remains unreleased. The tongue doesn't release from the top of the mouth to make a t sound. If, however, I have a word that ends in a T, and the next word begins with a vowel, then I go back to that weak flap T sound. If I say a sentence like, the cat is on the table, then I say, the cat is on the table, it becomes again that weak t sound because the next word now is beginning with a vowel. So I kind of have to release my tongue in order to make that vowel sound correctly. And there are two other things that we should talk about with the T that you're going to hear people do, native speakers of English. Okay. So before, as I said, normally when a T comes between two vowels, or R and a vowel, it becomes that weak flap sound. Another thing that can happen, and a lot of people that speak English in the United States do this, and if the T comes between N and a vowel, it almost kind of disappears. So, for example, if I have the word winter, winter, you can hear plenty of people in the United States pronouncing that T like a really strong T, but you can also hear a lot of people getting rid of that T altogether and it comes out sounding like winter, winter. Where I'm from, in the Northeast, in Boston, it's really common for people to do that. You don't really hear so much people saying winter, winter, but you hear more often people saying winter, right? Or in a word like painter, painter, right? Someone who paints. We don't really hear people saying the T sound so strongly a lot of the time. A lot of the time they'll say painter, painter, and the T sound almost goes away completely. The last thing that we need to talk about is T when it becomes a glottal sound. Now, the glottal sound isn't really a consonant per se, but it's just kind of like a break in the voice when I go like, uh. That's a glottal, right? This T can become a glottal sound, and it's in a very specific environment where it does this. If the T is, first of all, in a weak syllable, if it's between R, a schwa, and an N, then the T becomes a glottal. So, for example, in a word like certain, certain, we don't say in American English certain or certain, but we say certain, certain. You can see that I'm actually not making any kind of consonant sound between cert and n. I'm actually just making a glottal. I'm saying certain, certain. Or in another word that's pretty common, like important, important. I'm not saying important or important, but I'm saying important, important. You really should think about making a break between the two vowel sounds. I have important, important, okay? That sound is a little bit tricky, but mastering it will give you a really good American English accent, and it will really help people understand what you're saying to them. So thank you for watching this video, and I'm going to release some more in the future.